conspiracy? Are you gonna wear those or no? You don't want to.
No, I'll wear them.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I liked them.
I like them because it helps me know where
How
I'm
you sound
talking.
on the mic?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a favorite. Like, I'm not into conspiracy theories necessarily, like, because I liked them. It's just I didn't buy. Like, there's certain things, like with JFK.
Yeah.
Like, and even my family, no one in my family, they could care less about politics, but we were Irish, so they never. My dad never bought that, and he's not. He wasn't into any other conspiracies. But he goes, it was just total bullshit.
Well, that's kind of like, isn't that kind of like an accepted thing now? Is that this like the government and the mob and like
It's really it's
they
a lot. It's actually
had some kind of involvement.
It's heavily tied to the Bushes because George Bush was the head of the CIA at the time, which like he denied for years. Which is like
wait, senior?
Yeah. So Senior made a phone call to a ridiculous phone call to establish an alibi. And like they had it on tape, and you could tell he was like panicked. But he made a call to the FBI, so he claims he wasn't there, right? But they have him on camera.
Really? Wait,
they have him.
He was denying that he was there. Or
Yeah, that he wasn't in. He was trying to make
head of the CIA.
He was trying to. They covered that up, which you really could look into fairly easily.
I had no idea.
Nobody knows, but look
like
into
a
it.
true thing that the president of the United States, George H.W. Bush,
yeah, the dead one. And
was the head of the CIA.
Yeah, he claimed he wasn't in Dallas, but they have the pictures, and he was on the scene of it. So I mean,
interesting.
When you're lying, you know what I mean. When you're lying right off it's like, okay,
there's something weird.
About it, and
isn't there stuff with like Jimmy Hoffa too? Isn't that somewhat related when the mob was like very big? Because wasn't like JFK trying to take down the mob, and then like,
it was his brother Bobby.
And then Jimmy Hoffa, that's how he kind of like got in with like the mob, and then they took him out, and then
the Kennedys were bootleggers as well. They made a lot of their money in bootlegging.
Like
if I'm not
alcohol?
mistaken.
Like prohibition?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And I mean, like his dad wasn't like a straight shooter by any means. He was a rich guy. He was, mega rich. And he bought JFK an election, like one of the states.
Really?
Like he bribed or however. It's considered that's not really a
I mean, at the end of the day, they are from Boston. So like, I mean, you're not going to get many straight shooters from Boston. They're going to tell you they're straight shooters, but listen, they're trouble. I know you're from, Massachusetts. You know better than I. I mean, a lot of shady characters up in Boston.
Back in the old days, I mean, you're gonna be dealing, even if you just did construction like my dad and he wasn't involved in anything. Like these guys coming by doing the numbers. You know what I mean? So there's mob guys on site. Yeah. Okay. I don't even know what numbers is. It's some sort of gambling. But he's like, if you stay out of it, you're good.
Well, I think that what's the thing? You got to pay for protection, right? You got to pay for protection, and if not, like everyone's got to pay a percentage to the mob. Otherwise, your building gets burned down. Isn't that like what it is?
Yeah, numbers was different. That was like a lottery. But so this was for the guys working on construction sites. So like the guy would come by, do the numbers. Okay. It was a lottery thing. So it was gambling. It was just gambling.
Oh yeah, okay.
But yeah, it was when I looked more into Whitey Bulger and those guys. When you hear the stories about Kevin Weeks and them, it really what it was. Like if you broke it down, they were schoolyard milk bullies who just took it
to the next level,
like forever. As older people, they just come to your work. They're like, "You owe us $2,500 a week."
And if not, we're gonna break the windows in your building.
They wouldn't even say that. They just,
day.
you know who we are. That's like South.
Oh
everybody.
God.
That's what they say in South. They're like, you know who I am. But nowadays, like some of them are for real. But it's like, yeah, you're a drug addict.
You're a drug addict. You want to be my roommate?
Yeah, you could join in at the Kerrigan crew.
Dude, that's that Boston level. That could never happen in any other city. Whitey Bulger could never, Whitey Bulger couldn't have been born in South Carolina and make that racket. That's a Boston level of confidence to be like, you're going to pay me.
Yeah. They were...
and just give a look.
Because a lot of people probably seen it on, I don't know if it was on Rogan, but Dana White, the head of the UFC, had a boxing gym in Southie.
Really?
Right? This is before, this is his story. And Kevin Weeks walked in. It was like he was teaching more like men and women. It was more like an exercise thing. I think like where you're doing, you're just doing it for like exercise.
Martial arts for working out. And
yeah, working out,
that kind of thing.
And he had other. I think he had fighters and stuff. But they came in during the class. So Kevin Week rolls in with his crew, and they're like, "We need to talk to you." And he's teaching the class. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Can we like have an appointment. He's like, we need to talk out front. He's like, you know who we are. And he said, it was something like that. I just said 25. It was a ridiculous amount of money because the guy's like, dude, I'm making $300 a week. They're like, we want $2,500 every week. And dude, you know what he did?
What?
He moved out the next day. He moved to Vegas, and that's probably a good reason why UFC was started. He got out.
Wild.
But that's the mentality. I'm like, dude, that's just straight bully. That's not even like, it's not, they say it's organized crime, but that's just like straight bully.
That's crazy. Yeah, because wasn't that whole thing, I mean, I feel like from like the movies, Black Mass and The Departed and everything, wasn't it, where they were essentially just using him as an informant to take down the Italian mob, but in that like same vein, they just like kind of let him operate with carte blanche throughout the city of Boston, right?
Yeah, but the reality was he didn't give them any information on the mob. They were using other so it's even more of a scam than people think. Like they were using other informants' info and saying Whitey gave it to him, but Whitey'd be like, yeah, like so and so's he's gonna be at a wedding. Like, just giving them this,
basic base level
garbage
stuff, so, yeah.
info, but it's even more corrupt than we know. So they knew that he wasn't giving them good info, and they gave him a license to kill, and they tracked down targets for him. Let's face the fact, they probably killed a couple people for him.
That's great. That's so crazy. But yeah, I mean, did who was it? The FBI agent?
Yeah, John Conley.
He went to jail, right?
Yeah, he went down hard, and they tried to see the whole thing. That's a scam. Is they tried to pin that like he was the like the bad apple. But dude, it was everyone above him. Comey, all the guys we know now were above him. They're all in on it.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, yeah, that's
like
the thing too. They paint him as like this kind of
rogue.
Yeah, this rogue operator. But I mean,
it's. I always think it has something to do with controlling the cities and the way they want it. Because look what happened when they took him out. They took Bulger out. Look at Southie now. They were holding the city back, and they knew it.
Dude, it's the same
for
way
some
as
reason.
the North End.
Yeah.
Dude, I was living in the North End when they had this building. It was this like clubhouse where they would all hang out, and it's like, dude, I'll tell you, I had no idea. I knew that like the North End was like that, old mob territory, but I didn't know it still existed. I think it's a skeleton of itself at the time, right? When I was living there. But there was this clubhouse, and when they rented the building to us, the real estate agent was like, "Oh, this place, you never go in there. Like it looks like a bar, but it's like this is a private."
Oh, it was a social club.
The Gemini Club.
Yeah. Those. Like
yeah.
Social clubs here, it's the same Boston as New York had a ton of them.
So I had no idea, but it was very much implied to me that it was like, oh, this is where like the mob, or what is now the mob, operates out of. Dude, I lived there for 3 years all through law school. The summer going into my 2L year, I lived there. I had 2 people like move in from out of state to sublet during the summer who were going to work there. Dude, the kid tells me after living there for a couple of weeks, he goes, when I Googled like where it was and like the address, this story came up. Apparently, while I was living there, this guy, he was a bigger like Italian dude, nicest dude ever, was always so nice. My parents helped me move in when I first moved in there. Dude, for a year and a half, he would ask me how my parents were. He'd be like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's your dad? How's your dad?" I was like, "Oh, they're good. They're great." Dude, apparently one Saturday morning, like a month, I was living there sleeping probably at the time. I had no idea this happened. The FBI raided that building, and the guy who was like so nice, they arrested him, and like he went away for like 25 years. I forget for what, I don't even know, but like he was like the boss. He was like the last guy, and they fucking took him down. And the guy who lived there was like, "Yeah, that was the news article." And I was like, "Dude, and you still were like, yeah, I'm gonna live above that."
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, okay."
Those old school like Italian mob guys, they had a lot of charm and class. They were like polite
Very
people.
nice until they got you, in a meeting.
Yeah, if they had a problem. I mean, their customer service was through the roof. This is like a big thing of mine. Dude, customer service is at an all-time low. You walk into Home Depot and you interrupt like 5 people talking. Dude, you think you're going to get jumped. I always tell people this. I asked a guy one time, I go, I needed a screw gun for sheetrock. And there's a kid, and he works in that aisle where it is, the tools. And I go, "Man, I'm looking for a screw gun for sheetrock." Kid looks at me, and he's like, "Yo, bro, I want to be honest with you. That doesn't exist." And I was so mad because obviously, and there's a guy behind him, like a customer, and he goes, "They're right over there." Kid just looks at me, and he goes, like some mystery had happened that he, it wasn't his fault. You know what I mean? That's what they take it wasn't his fault. The screw, I was like, I was almost amazed that he had that line so quick. He just anything but helping you. He's about.
Dude, I'll tell you what. They don't make those. I think you're crazy.
Dude,
that's one of those things where that happens, and I'm like, well, am I wrong?
Yeah, you do.
I guess I'll just leave.
It's a mind game, man. I'm trying to think where else. Customer service all in general just sucks. Mm-hmm. It's really poor.
Yeah. I'm trying to think where have I had a really bad customer. I'll still give 20% at like a restaurant, even if it's horrible service. I'll still give 20%. It could be they could spit in my food, and I'm still gonna give.
I feel 20%. Like waiters and waitresses, I'll exclude them. They do a lot of good jobs. I'm talking like counter stuff. Like you go into a place. Like back in the day, you went into a coffee shop. Like hey honey, how are you? Now it's just like you can barely get a table sometimes.
It's like, what do you want?
You feel like you walked into like their house and you shouldn't be there. You're like, should I not be here? Do you want me to leave?
Dude, have you ever interrupted someone who's like on their phone texting?
Yeah, while they're at work.
Oh my God. I want to apologize for how offended they look that I asked them a question. I'm like, no, can I just have a straw? And they're like, bro, are you kidding me? They're right there. Get it yourself. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Worst customer service of all, MTA.
I mean, that's you can't even call
it's not service.
The only thing that I consider an MTA employee good for is like if they're standing around at night, the chances of being jumped or attacked drops dramatically. That's the only thing that I think they're good for. I think if it actually happened, all they're gonna do is like turn around and walk away.
Oh, they're not. Yeah, they're not.
They're not getting involved, dude. When I was first, I told you this. We saw this happen. Was I with you or was I with Artie?
I don't know.
When I first moved down to the city, we watched this I'm pretty sure it was with you. We were going to a show in Brooklyn, and legit, this dude just is going nuts. Just typical homeless behavior, just going wild down in the subway. And I'm looking at him, and I see this other dude who's wearing like a security jacket. Dude, this guy starts losing his mind. I look at the guy just takes off his jacket and walks away. He was clearly like not on duty, but he had like an MTA like vest security jacket on. He definitely off work, and it was one of those things like I looked at him like, hey man, are you gonna do anything about this guy? He's like harassing other people. The dude literally looked at the guy, took his jacket off, and walked to the other end of the terminal.
I think it's policy because they're in like a union, and they're like that's not covered and that's not your job. So let them fend for. You do get that vibe in the subway, like you're on your own. You fended for yourself.
I do, but I do sometimes go especially on like I have talked about this, but that New York feel that it feels very much like the 80s again. It's very dangerous. You've been there more than I have, but you get that vibe too?
Oh, it's a different vibe now than when I first moved here. It's
way more dangerous, right?
5 subway slashes at 8 a.m. I mean, this is outrageous.
Dude, can you imagine you getting subway slashed before you even have your morning coffee? I mean, what a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I think
on the way that you get a coffee and you get slashed and you drop that coffee before you even have a sip. I mean,
I think you're safer. I don't know, I don't know what's worse, night or the day now. There's no difference.
Some dude tried to rape a woman on the platform in front of everybody. Dude, he threw her down and he just went at it, right? And then I think people kind of hesitantly walked over, like, is this real? And he kind of stopped.
Dude,
but I'm like, dude. They know these guys. I mean, how brazen do you have to be? Dude, daytime.
That's insane. I will say the last couple of times I've gone into the city, there are cops everywhere.
There are very recently,
because
it just
everywhere.
It escalated so much that they were like, dude, we can't.
Dude, the first subway station I went down the other last week, there were 4 cops just standing there, and that's like every station now.
Yeah, I've seen them on the trains a little bit now, which is good. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, dude, it's good.
The homeless has changed. Like, remember there was always the deranged guys, but the frequency now of the deranged guys asking for money, the threats are coming they're like, let me get $1, and then immediately you're being threatened. He's like, you know.
Dude, it's that vibe. It's the vibe of it used to be, whatever. Yeah, who cares? Like saying this, sorry that I want to feel safe when I'm fucking born. But it used to very much be this vibe of if you pissed yourself, you're going to, sleep on one side of the car. And you're like, I'm sorry that, I I get that this is bothersome. Now it's the attitude of like, if you get on the subway where some dude just like is sleeping, where he's like pissed himself, he's like, now you're intruding in my room. Like, get out of my house.
You're in his living room. Do you ever ride the G train?
No, where does that go?
G train. It's mostly in Brooklyn and Queens. I think it's all in Brooklyn, Queens. But there's one guy, and I just seen him again. I used to do an impersonation of him at Mike's, but you have to know him. He comes on and he's already so mad at everybody and disappointed. He has the worst attitude of all the beggars I've ever seen in my life, and he's just like, can anybody help me? All I need is a half a penny. A lousy penny. That's all I need. And I want to interview him and like, can we retrain you at like how to beg? Like, how about a little positivity here?
A little customer service, a little showmanship.
He's got to be one of the worst.
I will say, I feel like I've never seen someone get so angry but silently stew and be angry than I have when I've been on the subway with Mike, when like the doors close and then someone's like, all right, everybody, we got a show happening. And they start dancing. I've been on the subway with you when you're just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, what's going on here? This is out of control.
The first time I was in New York, when I see, you know how they walk through the doors? Like, that would, I don't know if they can do that on Boston trains, but it's just, Boston trains, no one talks. There's no action. Like, the first time I seen that, I was like, I was like, it's over. Like, we're being robbed.
I think this is going to be a terrorist act.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, dudes hang out there. Last night, a guy was smoking a J. One time I was talking to a guy, and I didn't know he was homeless yet. But halfway through our conversation, he goes, hold on a second. And he just opens the door, and he's leaning back, still talking to me. He's pissing. I'm like, oh, this guy's homeless. He tricked me. You know, I was vibing with him too much. On the way home, I was like, I'm rethinking my life. I'm like, I shouldn't have been vibing so much with that guy.
Dude, I don't think that would surprise me about anybody else, but I think anybody who's heard the last 2 episodes that we've done together, that wouldn't shock anybody that you vibe with homeless people and have a difficult time being able to tell if they live indoors or not.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm getting sick. I'm getting real sick of it these days, because now I'm seeing the beginning of it, and I'm like, a lot of them aren't as good a guys as some people would have you believe. You know?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, some people are like, you know, these people, and there's some people that don't give to them. They're like, oh yeah, no, they're just down on their luck. A lot of them are just total. You know, you know what? They got a lot of pride. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some of these homeless guys are real prideful. It's almost like they don't know where they live, you know?
Well, you know what it is, too? I get that, like, there are all different circumstances or situations that can cause you to end up in that way. And I get that there are people who are so alone. But, like, if you think about it, any person that I can think of in my life, and I get that there are situations and, you know, lifetime things where people just finally, like, cut people off. But, like, you got to be a pretty big asshole to not have one person who's like, hey, man, let me help you out.
You can't help them at that stage.
Like a family member, a friend. You have to have been such a jerk. So anybody who's like, they're down on their luck, it's like, you can't think of one person who's like, hey, like, let me give you a couple $100.
Well, I think a lot of them, I think the real thing is that they have mental illness, and they used to support them. There used to be a support system. They cut it out in, like, I don't know, the 80s or something. Oh, really? So that's the thing. It's like they need to be in treatment as opposed to just wandering the subway doing whatever the hell they want with general population in fear.
Gen pop. They got to be in solitary.
I feel like it's kind of like a jail vibe down there. You know what I mean? You're like watching your neck. I've noticed that I've been watching. I have like a pose that I do to protect my organs with my arms. I'm protecting all my vital organs right now.
Dude, when I go down into the subway now, I stand on the stairs. Like, I do not. Like, I stand.
You
on
don't go near the tracks.
Dude, I remember one time I used to be like, oh, I'll stand right on the edge. I used to be like, oh, New Yorkers stand on the edge. Like when I was in like high school, college, and I remember a girl I was dating at the time. I met like her uncle's a cop or was a cop, and was like met him in the city, and he was like, hey, step back, like someone's gonna push you on the tracks. Like that shit happens all the time.
Yeah, now it's like way up now.
Back against the wall, like nobody walks behind you.
I put myself on the side pillar, you know those like metal columns. I'm like in between them, so I can grab it if they give me a little shove.
Yeah.
But I make, you know what I do?
I sit on the stairs or I stand on the stairs until the train comes and I walk down.
I make a lot of heavy eye contact with these deranged people because it lets them know, but like they see me and they go, "There's something wrong with this guy." They know that I have nothing to lose because people they look away.
Dude, yes.
I just first contact. I'm just staring. They're like, because they're like, this guy's crazy too. He's probably one of us, but he's in better clothes, but still.
Yeah, dude. If when someone walks into your area and you're like,
dude, it's gonna be a new like Joe Rogan thing. They'll be like, it'll be like homeless self-defense classes, like how to fight a deranged homeless guy, because you don't want to get bit in the mix.
Oh my God, and contract, and so you have to defend yourself without getting cut, without getting injured, without breaking skin. That's a very difficult.
And there's the urine factor too. These guys are urine soaked.
Oh, speaking of, I wanted to ask you. So, dude, you talked about your roommate earlier. Did you told me something about what he does?
What do you mean?
With his urine?
Oh, I haven't figured this out, but
Can
okay.
you tell that story quick?
It's every day. The amount of garbage that I deal with is just ridiculous because he's very unslick. So whenever he's setting up a scheme, it's like ridiculous. So I'm eating my oatmeal, getting ready for work, having my coffee.
Okay.
We don't have a proper kitchen setup. It's just like a table, and I sit like facing a wall, and there's only one chair, so one at a time.
Based on what you told me, I didn't think you had a chef's suite in the kitchen.
So I'm sitting there eating my oatmeal, and he comes in. He doesn't a lot of times he doesn't talk, but he comes in and he goes, "Hey, just making some green tea." And I turn around like, "Why would you announce you're making green tea?" And he, puts it on the stove, and like 2 seconds later, I smell hot piss, and I'm like, "Hey, are you boiling urine?" And he comes in as if like I wouldn't figure. He's like, "How did you figure it out?" He goes, "How did you know?" I'm like, "'Cause you're boiling urine in my kitchen." And then he takes it into his room, comes back, puts the pot back on the stove that he just boiled piss in, and we haven't. That was it. No explanation. But so I assume he's drinking it. And I know he tries to pass a drug test, but I'm like, he smoked crack, and he's drinking his own contaminated crack urine. But I don't ask questions, but what is the plan with that?
Dude, he brought the pot back empty.
Yeah, and just put it on the stove.
Oh, I'm like, didn't even clean it?
No, he never cleans up. That's his thing. Like, sometimes he'll half apologize. Like, he feels like he shouldn't, or he'll apologize to me. He's like, "I apologize to you, but I'm going to eat those other guys' food because I don't like them." And he goes, "Let them." He's like, "What are they going to do about it?"
Let them confront me.
Yeah, let them confront me. I'm high on drugs, and he doesn't care.
That's wild. Oh God.
There'll be tuna all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Straight up tuna.
I can't wait to visit.
Dude, you're moving in.
Yeah,
you're taking his room.
Dude, Mike keeps trying to convince me to take this guy's spot. I can't even imagine you've said your other roommates are pretty good though, right?
They're fine. They're cool.
Okay.
They're like we all know each other. He was the one missing link. In this town, you leave that little window of opportunity. It takes over.
What was his plan? Didn't you tell me his plan was to move out but continue to live there?
No, he tried to move in his quote unquote mentor, who he was smoking crack in front of, but he wasn't telling us any of the details. He thinks he's mad slick, but the other guy overheard the plan because he didn't know he was sleeping in his room. So he was going to move him in. And then he was going to sleep. There's a porch in his room. He was going to sleep on the porch. So him and his life coach, who I assume is either his crack dealer or some lunatic he met on the train, we're going to, I was like, do you think we're going to go along with this? It's just...
Dude, I can't wait until I do move in and I show up and this dude's just still in what is now about to be my room.
He'll be just sleeping on the porch. You do have a full size. It's like a massive porch.
I would have such anxiety about just the amount of crack I imagine that he smoked in that room. I would have such anxiety about getting the after effects of crack just seeping into my skin from everything all the crack that's in the walls and the ceiling. That honestly is what's going to keep me from not moving into that apartment.
I never imagined that I would have a keen sense of what crack smells like. I can pick it up now a mile away.
Sorry, I needed water. I feel like I've just been drinking this entire time. What does crack smell like?
It's hard to explain. I would say it kind of reminds me of like a burnt plastic smell. It's not like smoke. You know, like weed smoke?
Yeah.
It's more of a vapor. But the other day, the hit that he let out, I've never seen that. And I've watched videos online, like, it was a dragon cloud. And then he went directly into fight mode. So he just got, because he's on a lot of other drugs, but like that whacked him in. He was like, he's just like, all right, let's go. Let's fist fight now. With his coach there yelling at us in our own house. He goes, you need to have faith in this guy. That's the he was trying to, he's like, the problem isn't him.
Dude, he's the mentor. He's the motivational guy.
The problem is we don't have faith in him. That's what it is.
Dude, this
guy has some balls coming to my house telling me that.
It sounds like what's that show? It sounds like a reverse intervention where this mentor is coming in and he's like, listen, I know your life is falling apart. It's not because of the crack. It's not because you keep making friends with people who live under the bridge. It's because you have roommates who are not supporting your lifestyle choices.
Yeah, because they don't believe in you.
That is
the basis of all of your problems right now.
Yeah, he's gone through the thing about it. He gets new jobs. Like,
what does he do?
Painting and construction. $200 cash a day. He'll get a new one, right? Obviously, first day he goes
fired immediately.
And he's like, it was the boss was being a dick because he caught him drinking and doing drugs at 9:00 in the morning. Like, would you walk into work with a fucking tall boy on your first day and be like, dude, this guy, could you believe he fired me? I'm like, dude, you had a tall boy. He doesn't even drink beer. He drinks those Budweiser margarita cans.
Oh my
like
God.
15 of those. How much sugar are in those?
Oh my God. Well, that's what you don't want to have, like a beer in the morning. You want something sweet. You want a White Claw. You want a margarita.
Well, at least White Claw doesn't have sugar in it.
A tequila sunrise. You know.
I don't know why I'm thinking about it. Like, that's the biggest health concern in his life is the sugar content.
You're concerned that this guy, he's a bigger guy. I don't know. I'm real concerned he's gonna get diabetes, and that's what's gonna really spiral his life into oblivion.
But I would say it's unusual to be gaining weight while being addicted to crack. Like, the whole story is whacked out.
Something is amiss here.
Like, you should at least be getting skinny.
Oh my God. How tall is he? He's a big dude, right?
I'd say over 6, close to 300, maybe 285, 300.
Yeah, he should be much skinnier than that.
Well, he's continually gaining, but he does eat a ton of sugar, and most of it. Well, he gets food from a church or a food pantry, but then he just uses all our stuff to like our milk. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's wild. That's wild. Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory that you like to talk about?
I don't know about favorite.
Oh, what did you tell me? You told me what about Antarctica? I've never
Antarctica.
heard that one
Well, first of all, you're not. It would be hard to get there, but you're not allowed to go down there. You can't go down there, but you cannot fly a plane over there. You'll be hit up. You'll be what are those jets that they send in? You'll be turned around,
like an F-16
or you'll be warned that you'll be shot down.
Who owns Antarctica? Anybody?
That I think it was divided. Like, Germany was down there. Hitler was down there. That's not a a lot of people don't. You can look it up. Hitler was down there with like a lot.
Well, I know that's a good like theory or alternate theory is that Hitler never died, but he lived his life out in Argentina.
I'm 100% behind that.
Right? There was a show. It was like Finding Hitler or something like that.
I don't know. Like, I wouldn't say I know where, but there's no. I find it. He's like, okay, this guy's a diabolical genius. Takes over the world. And he's like, oh, I'm just gonna give up right now and burn myself. Kill myself. My girl. Of course not. Why wouldn't you give it a shot?
Yeah.
You're going to try to leave. And he knew it was over before. Like, he knew these guys are military experts. They knew it was on the decline.
Had an exit plan, yeah.
But,
that
Antarctica.
Make way more sense.
He brought down, the thing about Hitler's, towards the end of the war, he brought down a ton of machinery down there. So it wasn't like
interesting
boatload after boatload of stuff. So they were down there and they called it they had like a name on it, like, I don't want to say paradise, but in German, it was like New Something Land. So Germany had a piece of it at one point. I think now
that's what they call it, like New Paradise or something like that?
Something like that. And there's definitely mountains down there they know about, and there's supposed to be geothermal stuff. So, like, in theory, I mean, I don't know if this is... Some people would say there's even, like... some people used to say there was, like, the Antarctica was part of that old world. You know how we were talking about... For people who don't know at home, like, the pyramids are linked you got the Aztec. You have all this, like,
The idea that there were like these ancient civilizations were much more advanced than we actually know.
And that there was a worldwide civilization before us.
Yeah,
worldwide.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier, which is so crazy that like you have all these. Apparently, these cultures were so primitive that like building these pyramids was like the greatest accomplishment that they were able to do. But like they were so primitive that like they weren't able to communicate. But the fact that like the pyramids in Egypt are literally like the same in that's the house phone going is literally the same in terms of like size and dimensions and just shape as these like other civilizations in South America.
Well, not to mention the size of the blocks.
And yeah,
they can barely move some of those blocks, and some of them they can't move with all our modern stuff. So like the whole idea of them being like Stone Age, I'm sure there were groups of people like that, but they weren't, for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing to me is that, like, why does no one talk about that, where the fact that these civilizations essentially built the same things that were, like, super advanced and specific in terms of, like, the dimensions, like, match somehow, like, the math is so, like, precise that it matches.
It's all astrologically aligned.
It matches, like, the circumference and, like, the diameter of the Earth, and there's all this, like, correlation between the stars and, like, all this crazy stuff that they were able to do it in all these different parts of the world that apparently had no communication with each other. So it's all just like what? Parallel thinking? Or something like that?
Yeah. It's
like,
I believe in
I don't buy it, but I also think that what we just said, like if all humans went away tomorrow, it would take like 50 to 100 years for all like metal. The only thing that would be left would be like stone, right? So it kind of makes sense that like the pyramids are the only things that are left if it was a more advanced like society.
Yeah. I like, and the thing with Antarctica is I believe that the continents were one. There was one landmass. Because you ever look at South America and Africa, it's like a puzzle piece. Pangea. So
that's like.
So Antarctica would have
like
been part of, and it wasn't there. It would have been way up into, so it would have been a tropic zone or whatever. And I think there's evidence that there is under the ice that there was, it was like that. It had land, it had tropical, dinosaurs or whatever the heck was going on at the time. So yeah, that's about
wild though. So what's the theory behind it? That like something like the government, like governments of the world have like some maybe like
well, there is bases down there. There's science that we know about, but for some reason, some people say that they think there's an entrance down there to like this is an old.
This is where it gets like this
goes back like hundreds or maybe 1,000 years. There's always stories of people who live in the earth.
Yes, I've heard that because they talk about that in like South America, that there are all these like bigger people, like these like giant almost people that like live in the earth. There's apparently this cave in South America that you can like get to is like apparently brings you into the earth, and there's this like super advanced civilization there.
Yeah, and I've heard that there's one of those entrances down there, and apparently
in Antarctica,
and maybe you could even see it from like why can't you fly over? That's what weird. Even if there's nothing there, that makes it suspicious. It's like when they're like, you can never look over there, by the way, ever.
It's interesting. What would there ever be? Because in terms of like the geographical way, like would there ever be a purpose to fly over Antarctica?
I don't know. Like to get somewhere,
also,
I don't know.
I have no idea in terms of like why would you?
No, I don't think you would, but like if you live down in Argentina or the tip of Brazil down there, you could probably do it fairly. You're fairly close just for fun.
It's like a no-fly zone.
It's a no-fly zone. You'll be intercepted.
Interesting.
Absolutely, you'll be intercepted, and I do believe they'll warn you that if you continue, you will be shot down, which seems excessive if there's nothing there.
That is actually crazy. Yeah. So it could be like that. It in terms of, that's my favorite part about conspiracies is there's also so many different ways it could go. Is like, hey, this could very well be like, hey, you can't fly here because it's not safe, and if you crash, like we're not going to be able to save you, and we don't want the headache of that. Or the government has some kind of like new world order headquarters down there where all the governments like have like above the governments the people who run the world have like their bases there. Or there's a door to the world where, these giant people still live.
I think that I've heard that they're not giant, that they're very small because they went in.
Oh, interesting.
They've been down there. But I think there's also a question if there are visible pyramids on Antarctica.
Oh, really?
So maybe that is it. That, you'd fly and you'd see it. Because I've seen some photos, and it could easily be ice. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But there are, like, people don't know this. There's pyramids all over China, and they're overgrown by, like, forests. But for recent years, for whatever happened, they cut them down, and then you could just see it. Perfect pyramid. And the government does not allow you to go near them, and I think they've been disassembling them.
Really?
So there's pyramids there.
Can you imagine if, like, Egypt was just, like, knocking down their pyramids, being like, we don't want you to know what's here?
Yeah, I don't know what it is with the pyramid shape that's so interesting or whatever, but they seemed they were kind of the same down in South America.
South America, I think I heard this somewhere, where they were like they shoot it now with, like, they fly over and they shoot it with, like, this X-ray or this, like, radar stuff. I was just talking about this with someone, and there's all this stuff that they're able now to see through the overgrown forest, like the Amazon, where it's like, oh my God, there's, like, way more structures here that we, like, have no idea about. We have no idea what they are. Like so many more undiscovered sites that exist.
I mean, they're all over America too. I am a believer in giants. No, I'm 100%. I believe in giants because they always have the same story. Like, some of them, Jack and the Giant Beanstalk, right? Yeah. Ridiculous tale. But the thing that it has in common with all giant stories, cannibalism. They're always cannibals. Remember, he wanted to fee, fi, fo, fum, and supposedly these guys were supposed to have super sense of smell, and because for hunting, they would eat people and they would eat themselves. And all the Native American stories are that they were cannibals, red-headed giant cannibals. They tell it like a real story. They're like, they oftentimes brought them in, try to civilize them, and they just wouldn't stop eating people.
Dude, well, that ties in. Dude, there's a popular going around, like, TikTok and Instagram right now. There's a popular conspiracy theory that is gaining traction, is that there are cannibals, feral people who live in the national parks in America.
Dude, that's interesting, man.
Where, like, it started this thing where, like, people, they always say in national parks, like, stay on the trails, don't go off the trails. So I don't know if it's something, like, apparently, I've seen videos where, like, someone will be like, there are all these missing persons reports that go out every year. People go missing in national parks. Now, you could say these things are just, like, hundreds of thousands of acres of untouched woods, wilderness, land. So it's like you could just get lost and die or get attacked by an animal. But there's this theory that, like, the government knows that these people live there and they're just, like, not doing anything about it. And, like, I heard one story of, like, this woman or this girl who lives near the parks, near one of the parks in Yosemite, and was like, yeah, like, you'll hear people, like, screaming at night, and it's, like, feral people, like, living in the woods.
I am very interested in feral people, like people raised by wolves. Like, I haven't heard too many stories that sound
like the Jungle Book.
Yeah, I just find that like, if you were a little kid, like, you know how little kids are, like, I'm talking like a toddler, and wolves sometimes will they'll know that you're not a threat, and they've been known to take care of kids.
Dude, it's like when that baby like fall into the gorilla exhibit at the zoo a couple years ago, and the gorilla was just like, or like these, like, huge, like, gorillas or whatever they were, like, didn't attack and just, like, took care of the baby.
Yeah, they did. I think it's obviously super dangerous because they can turn at any moment.
Yeah.
But baboons steal kids in Africa out of windows. They come in.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if they kill. They probably do kill them because they drag them, like, by the arm. You know, have you ever seen how they handle their own? It's not like a human baby can't take that type of abuse. But I wonder, like, would you become, like, wolf? Like, how wolf-like would you be, and for how long?
At some point, are you just like, yeah, this is I'm not the same.
Yeah, but I don't
not the same as these wolves.
You know what? Kids who aren't spoken to by human, like by their parents, it's like a condition. They, like, don't learn how to talk. And if you don't learn by a certain time, you know, like, if you're 6 and you've never had any, you know, you didn't have people holding you, you're not going to learn right. You know, you're not going to just, like, pick it up.
What is that? Nature versus nurture?
Yeah, you're supposed to, like, if a child isn't held when they're a baby, it'll mess them up. All children mostly are, but there's all these, you know, crackhead, and they find the baby, you know, the mother was dead.
Oh, jeez.
And they find the baby, and the baby's, like, first of all, they have sores because they haven't been moving in the crib. But they, like, it was a girl, actually. They said she was the most evil kid ever.
and that was the real reason. Like she was trying to. So she was adopted later, and she would try to. She would hurt herself, but she would also try to kill her baby brother. And eventually, they figured it all out. Luckily, she talked. You know what I mean? She was verbal about. She would say, "I want to kill my whole family." This is like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old.
It was because like she wasn't.
Yeah, and she was also abused as an infant, like a real.
Jeez.
So the parents were drug addicts.
Well,
or
this
something.
took a dark
Yeah, it
turn.
did. Hey, no, she's doing great, and she's working. No, she is. She's like works as a social worker.
She's gonna be at a LOL Comedy Club tonight with
And
you.
she'll be there. I don't. We don't allow women actually to perform. I'm just kidding. We have tons of women there. Super funny, by the way.
Yeah. How you feel?
I feel pretty good.
That was a good one too, I think.
Yeah, this is more of a. This is down a different channel.
Yeah, we went down a different path, but I don't mind that.
Like you might get flagged from that. You might get a call.
Kids of Antarctica being like,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
man,
they're
you're
like,
not
listen,
allowed to-
never speak about that again.
you're not even allowed to talk about that, dude.
Send us a check for $50,000 and we'll recant everything we said. Like there is no Antarctica. You liars. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, that was a good episode. I'm feeling good about it.
All right.
Guys, these episodes are out every Thursday. Follow, subscribe at Dylan Krasinski on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Sea Otter Town Hall, Instagram, TikTok.
Michael Kerrigan, Mike T. Kerrigan on Instagram.
There it is. Guys, this will be out every Thursday. Thank you for being here. Subscribe, follow, like, and that is it. Good night.